Women, life, freedom, 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 freedom.
The morality police had nothing to do with the judiciary, and they have been shut down from where they were set up. These were the exact words uttered by Iran's Prosecutor General Mohammad Jafar Montazeri. Montazeri was asked about disbanding the Guidance Patrol, or Gasht-e-Irshad, the agency responsible for enforcing the country's Islamic Code of Conduct. He added that the judiciary would continue to monitor behavioral actions at the community level. But his statement is not clear-cut and has been brushed off by activists. The control over the patrol lies with Iran's Interior Ministry. Though the government has not acknowledged or confirmed the statement, the country's state media has since denied it.
The morality police, it's part of Iran's constitution. So it is the identity of Iran. If the morality police is abolished, that means the regime has gone, that the regime is disabled. But I think it's pure propaganda to distract the protesters from what is happening, to distract the West and the media.
What this comment and the subsequent confusion and news headlines came shows us a few different things. One is a sort of off-the-cuff comment by that official, which to this day is still not clear. Is he saying that it was disbanded because it was rebranded? Because the morality police used to be called the Guidance Patrol, Gasht-e-Irshad, and then it was there was a restructuring. So in a way, there was a disbanding, but it was a restructuring, so a rebranding of the force. And now it's under what's called the Public Safety Police. So is he talking about that restructuring and the rebranding of this force? Or was he talking about the past 3 months where we're mostly seeing security forces and riot police and not so much of the morality police as we did before? It's also a seasonal issue. Morality police usually have a stronger presence during the summer where women wear less clothes.
Iran's Prosecutor General's statement comes nearly 3 months after the death of Mahsa Amini, while she was in custody of the morality police. The 22-year-old Kurdish woman from the Iranian city of Saqqez was detained for not wearing her hijab in accordance with government standards. Her death sparked nationwide protests, and the ripples were felt worldwide. Women burnt their hijabs and cut their hair in solidarity, demanding an end to Iran's repressive regime. Since then, at least 448 people have been killed by security forces. The figure includes 29 women and 60 children. And yet the authorities have not taken any concrete action in the matter. Countless other women who have faced brutality await justice.
After this big revolution, we have lost in 2.5 months time, like 500 innocent people, which were killed by Revolutionary Guard, by police and by suppressing forces of Khamenei. And this is how it's going on today. And people are striking. They don't go to work because they are fed up with the regime and they want to change the system, the whole system.
Darya Safai, an Iranian-Belgian lawmaker, too raised her voice against the Khamenei regime. She was among the 3 lawmakers who cut their hair in the Belgian parliament in solidarity with the anti-government protests.
People that have been injured during the protests, especially again in the Kurdish and the in Baluchistan, in Kurdistan, they've not been allowed to. They are scared to go to the hospitals first and foremost because they're scared to be captured. And there were reports during those 10 days or 2 weeks period where there was heavy crackdowns in Kurdistan that the government themselves arrested injured ones in hospitals, and they would amputate their legs and hands and take out their eyes to just show, look what we can do, what we are capable of. And then they've been warning doctors and medical advisors and pharmacists to supply any medical advice to these injured ones. So these crackdowns they are making it more difficult for people.
Gina Mahsa Amini, a Kurdish minority woman, was visiting Tehran with her family. Around 6 p.m., she was detained for not wearing her hijab properly, which is a punishable offense in Iran. Amini was separated from her family and taken to a police station or a so-called re-education center. However, according to Amini's family, her clothes were in line with the rules. Around 7:30 p.m., she was rushed to a hospital in the Iranian capital. As per initial reports, Mahsa Amini had a sudden heart attack while at the station and lost consciousness. After multiple failed attempts to revive her, she was shifted to another hospital. Lying intubated on the hospital bed, she shortly slipped into a coma. And after 3 days of fighting for her life, Amini passed away on September 16th. The Islamic Republic of Iran claims that it is not a custodial killing. Iran's forensic organization said, and I quote, "Mahsa Amini's death was not caused by blows to the head and vital organs and limbs of the body." As per the statement, her death was related to a surgery for a brain tumor at the age of 8, and a sudden heart failure is what finally claimed her life. Her family, however, believes that she was tortured after she was put in the van and whisked away. Mahsa's father then said, and we quote, "It is not clear how she was beaten. The women who were in the ambulance said that she was hit on the head." Unquote. He also alleged that authorities did not give him his daughter's autopsy report. Mahsa's cousin, Irfan Sali, too recounted the horrific ordeal.
The witnesses said at the time that the police beat Jinnah in front of her brother. He saw it happen. When they hit her in the head with the baton, she lost consciousness, and her relatives were screaming out loud.
Leaked CT scan reports show multiple bone fractures that led to Amini experiencing a brain hemorrhage and being pushed into a coma, from which she never came back. Mahsa Amini was one of the innumerable women struggling to survive just another day under Iran's strict morality police. Her death has sparked an unprecedented uprising across Iran, demanding an end to the state's repressive rules. So what are Iran's hijab laws exactly?
The hijab law was enacted after the 1979 revolution in the early 80s, 1983. It was rolled slowly. First, they asked women in the military, then women in the government workforce, and then eventually everyone who was appearing in public to observe the mandatory hijab. It's part of Iranian law. It requires women to cover their hair and also to wear Islamic dresses. In the 1980s, what the state accepted was only solid colors, dark colors, loose-fitting, long robes in the colors of black, gray, brown, navy, and with all of hair to be covered. But over the decades, women have been pushing back and resisting this mandatory and the limits of how that is being defined. And if we look at photos of images of Iran in the public in the 1980s and then compare it to the 90s, to the 2000s, and then compare it to today, we'll see how women have gradually pushed the limits to the point that there's been so much change over the past 4 decades in what the state has been forced to accept from women who have been pushing back collectively.
This is what Iran looked like until the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The hijab, today a symbol of oppression for the Iranian woman, was outlawed. Reza Shah Pahlavi, the founder of the Pahlavi dynasty, banned women from wearing both traditional Islamic veils covering the whole body and headscarves. The edict by the Shah of Iran was swiftly and forcefully implemented. 86 years later, the hijab remains at the heart of Iranian politics. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was the last Shah of the imperial state of Iran. He maintained a pro-Western foreign policy and fostered economic development. Though slammed for his autocratic style and suppression of dissent, women gained some rights during his rule. Women were encouraged to pursue an education and could mingle with the opposite sex.
I mean, my own family, the revolutionaries who came from the urban middle class, the secular class in the Iranian society, what they were saying is that before the revolution, they didn't have political freedoms, but they had social freedoms, meaning in how they dress, how they behave, many much more freedoms when it came to that secular urban lifestyle.
Before the revolution of 1979, Iranian women were just like the women around the world. They could have gone working, they had the right to vote, they had all of the sort of freedoms, and they were on the good way toward going forward if it goes around the problematic of women's rights. So they could be judges, they could be doctors, they could work as a woman in a society which the equality was the base of it. And of course, it was not perfect. Iran, like other countries, went forward, but of course, a lot of achievement could have taken place. But unfortunately, the Islamic Revolution of 1979 has changed a lot.
While the younger generation welcomed the ban, the more conservative older Iranians found it hard to accept. This served as the perfect ground for traditionalist leaders, who then started pushing for making a return to Iran's old glory that lay in its traditional Islamic values and was not westernized. The result was one of the most crucial geopolitical events of the 20th century, the Islamic Revolution of 1979. The streets were filled with massive protests, and there was a breakdown of civic order. Eventually, people voted to create an Islamic Republic, and Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini became the supreme leader of Iran. It set the basis for a new form of political Islam and harbored in a heavily conservative theocratic state that continues even to this day. Iran's supreme leader imposed a mandatory dress code that required all women to wear the hijab. The hijab ban was reversed in 1983. A number of other restrictions followed.
Let me just tell you how they are discriminated on the basely days in a gender apartheid system, which, for example, going to the university is not possible going men and women together or sitting on a table to eat together. For example, the things which are very simple to understand. A woman doesn't have the permission to leave the home if the father doesn't want to, or if the husband doesn't want that she goes working or studying or even having a passport. The Iranian women, based on the Islamic Republic of Iran, the laws of this regime, they should ask their husband to sign for their passport, and they should have the permission of them for going out of the country. All other things like working.
Interestingly, it was around the same time that Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini issued a fatwa. He condemned Salman Rushdie to death for alleged blasphemy in his novel The Satanic Verses. Freedom of expression ceased to exist. Over the years, Iranian women have consistently resisted these oppressive codes. This time around, with Mahsa Amini's death, their protests have gathered an unexpected momentum. Her unfortunate death has also inspired people across the world to stand in solidarity with the women of Iran. From celebrities chopping off locks to hijab protests taking center stage at the ongoing FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Mahsa Amini's voice is being spread to every corner of the world. Interestingly, many people in Iran celebrated their country's loss to the United States during the knockout stage. They took to the streets to celebrate the defeat, as they felt the country's football team was representing the current regime. During these celebrations, one man was reportedly killed by security forces. And then there's this image, an Iranian girl standing waving her headscarf as it is engulfed by flames amid chants of "Death to the Dictator." 16-year-old Nika Shakharami from Tehran went missing soon after. 1 week later, her family learned that she was dead. Hundreds gathered in New York to pay tribute. Widespread dissent has even reached the home of the supreme leader of Iran. A sister of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has condemned her brother's bloody crackdown on the nationwide protests. Badri Husseini Khamenei, who lives in Iran, wrote, and we quote, "I think it is appropriate now to declare that I oppose my brother's actions, and I express my sympathy with all mothers mourning the crimes of the Islamic Republic, from the time of Khomeini to the current era of the despotic caliphate of Ali Khamenei."
The fact that his sister is speaking out against him publicly, risking a lot. There's a very great risk that comes with her comments. It's just incredible. It's a testament to how wide the discontent is, and also the legitimacy crisis that the regime is dealing with.
Is Iran on the edge of a revolution? According to reports, the government is considering easing some restrictions on women. Will we see a real change?
There's always a hope to see the end of the tunnel, but this is not a hope that the people can realize through their government in Iran. In Islamic Republic of Iran, there is no real government than just the government of Khamenei, which is a dictator and theocratic of the whole system.
People of Iran have decided this revolution will happen sooner or later. They do not want this Islamic regime of Iran. They want a democratic Iran, they want an equal Iran, and that is what they're fighting for.
Which side will prevail? It's hard for me to speculate, but I think it is essentially a revolutionary moment. And what women have done in the core of this, the feminist uprising, has already been so revolutionary that I don't think the Iranian society, especially Iranian women, are going back to before September 2022.